Hello and welcome to another Sci-Fi Short, where we try and take a complex idea and turn it into a really short video around 5 minutes long. Tonight we're going to be discussing one of my favourite topics, morality, but as I said, these videos need to be short, so I need to get on with it. Morally true. It's about morality and truth. Morality and truth are interlinked, but are also both quite often misunderstood. In this short, we'll be going over the basics of morality and how truth relates to some ethical theories. So what is morality? It's the principles of good and bad, right and wrong behaviour. Its purpose is somewhat debated, but it's thought that morality's purpose is one or many of flourishing, well-being, pleasure, collaborative and cohesive societies, keeping order, balancing power, and survival. These purposes influence a number of moral theories. An outlier to the above could be divine command theory, as if God exists, we can only speculate God's purpose. As an atheist channel, we feel it likely fits more into the above. Meta-ethics. Rather than an examination of normative ethical theories, we are instead going to be discussing meta-ethical theories. Meta-ethics is primarily concerned with the meaning of ethical judgments and seeks to understand the nature of ethical properties, statements, attitudes, and judgments, as well as the rationale behind them. More so than that, we are going to be examining moral non-cognitivism and moral cognitivism, and the views that fall under these branches. This will not be an exhaustive list nor an extensive description of what they mean, but a brief overview to give a general idea. So what is moral non-cognitivism? A moral non-cognitivist would claim that moral statements are not in the business of predicating properties or making statements that could be true or false. In other words, there is no truth to any moral statement. A moral non-cognitivist would essentially say that moral statements express non-cognitive attitudes, more similar to desires, emotions, approval, or disapproval. Types of moral non-cognitivism. So, emotivism. Moral statements primarily express emotion and perhaps try to elicit the same emotion in others, e.g., rape is wrong, is more akin to the concept of rape makes me feel horrible. Prescriptivism. Moral statements are expressions of moral imperatives. You are telling people how you want them to act. For example, stealing is wrong is more akin to do not steal. Expressivism. Moral statements express pro and con attitudes towards objects. For example, lying is wrong is more akin to I disapprove of lying or I think lying is wrong. Norm expressivism. Moral statements express a non-cognitive attitude of acceptance towards rules or norms, and to call an action irrational is to express one's acceptance of a system of norms which forbid it. Vandalism is wrong equals vandalism is permissible is false due to my acceptance of my culture's values and legal structure. Plan expressivism. Similar to norm expressivism, moral statements express a non-cognitive attitude of acceptance towards a normative judgment. Essentially, they express a state of mind that we might think of as planning to act in this way, or that depending the naturalistic circumstances one finds oneself in. Quasi-realism. Quasi-realism is a bit different from other non-cognitive approaches in that it speaks that we are entitled to act as if our moral statements are truth at, even though, strictly speaking, they are not. So non-cognitivism is not strictly limited to these mentioned, and there is more detail to all of the above as well. It's just a brief overview. Non-cognitive theories could all be reduced to saying they are a form of non-truth at subjectivism, not to be confused with the cognitive moral theory, moral subjectivism. So what is moral cognitivism? Cognitivism is essentially the denial of non-cognitivism. It holds that moral statements do express truth at beliefs and therefore can be true or false. Or to put it another way, moral statements contain propositional content. The truth maker in this situation need not necessarily be a form of realism or objective morality, but could lie within a culture or individual's opinion. To be clear, by truth maker, I mean the thing that makes the statement true or false. So, types of moral cognitivism. Moral realism, also known as objective morality. There exists at least one moral truth above personal opinion. It is always wrong to rape and torture a small child for fun. Slavery was always wrong. Other forms of cognitivism are referred to as anti-realism. There is a truth, but there's a specific truth maker. So moral relativism, moral statements are truth at, but the culture and time are what makes them true. Slavery used to be moral in some cultures, but is now immoral. It is moral in some cultures to kill homosexuals and atheists. Moral subjectivism. Moral statements are truth at, but the individual decides what is moral for them, much like it can be true that one person likes the taste of broccoli and another does not. Rape is immoral would actually mean it is immoral for me to rape, and that would be true. This does also mean, though, that if someone says rape is moral, it would mean it is moral for me to rape, and that would also be true. Divine command theory. Morality is from God, and anything God commands is moral. God could change the moral order at any time. Even though in the Ten Commandments, thou shalt not murder is present, God could command you to kill, and that would be moral. Technically, if God exists, then this is his morality. It would be a form of moral realism. Error theory. It's an interesting one in that it's actually a form of moral nihilism. It combines cognitivism, moral language consists of truth-apt statements, with moral nihilism. There are no moral facts. It holds that moral thought and discourse has made a pervasive error and that all moral statements make false ontological claims. It holds we do not know any moral claim is true because all moral claims are false. Or we have reason to believe that moral claims are false. We are not justified in believing any claim that we have reason to deny. We are therefore not justified in believing any moral claims at all. So, whilst I mentioned nihilism above, I feel I should mention that it doesn't exactly fit with either of the cog or non-cog views, and perhaps in the future I will address it along with various types of moral skepticism. So, is there any truth to morality? If so, where is the truth maker? This is not an easy question to answer, but assuming you have an understanding of truth, there are some things to ask yourself. Does a society deeming something to be moral make it moral for anyone in that society? Do you think slavery used to be moral, but no longer is? If your friend thought it was moral to rob old people, would it make it so? Are we just expressing preferences and emotions when having discussions about morality? Non-cognitive theories describe a form of morality where there is no actual truth value. Most cognitivist theories describe a form of morality where there is a truth value, though the truth value may not always exist above personal or cultural opinion. There are some convincing arguments all around and worth looking into in more detail, though I would love to know what your gut tells you about truth in morality. So that brings us to the end of another SciPhi Short. I hope you've learned a little bit of something. If you do want us to go into more detail, please let us know in the comments. And if you have any opinions about morality or would like a discussion in the future, we'd love that too. I'm Joe from Answers in Reason. Have yourself a good one.